Hello and welcome to our series Manage Well and Get Preserved about digital preservation of research data. This time we are going to talk about how to create sustainable solutions for citation and research data management with the help of persistent identifiers. This helps you take good care of research data, so good that it can be reused and preserved even for future generations of researchers.
You have surely come across broken links in your work. This is not only annoying, but a real problem for scientific communities. Links can break due to many reasons. The website and domain might have changed their names, an organization might change name, or technical solutions. As the world and web changes, web content gets moved around and is sometimes taken down. We call this link rot. Another, possibly even more devious problem for scientific referencing is content drift. In these cases, the information behind the link has changed. This might be difficult to detect. What if the content was something you used as a source in your research? Someone might misunderstand what you have done in your study if they don't realize the source you are referring to has changed. Even a date for download does not necessarily solve this problem if old versions are not available. A persistent identifier service is a solution to this problem. It offers identifiers that identify a specific content and its metadata and also works as a link on the internet. The point is that this link and the content behind it are curated by someone who is committed to taking care of the content and see to it that the link resolves to a landing page with relevant information. You have maybe heard about the Fairdata principles that are considered to be a good practice in research data management. These principles help us to solve the problem with breaking links and content drift. We all want to create research that is trustworthy and well underpinned with data and create datasets that are findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. As a file without no information about what it contains or where it comes from is mostly worthless, data always need metadata and a persistent identifier that is unique to the dataset, a promise that you can find and download the exactly same data again, or at least be made aware if this is not the case and something has changed. Several of the Fairdata principles refer explicitly to identifiers and require a well-managed use of them to create resilience and interoperability. The Fairdata object, therefore, by definition contains the data object, metadata, and the persistent identifier, which is its unique name. It should also be machine actionable so that software can act upon it. In practice, this means it should be a link that for the human user opens a landing page with the metadata that contains information about the source and creation of the data and associated rights and restrictions. Someone has to take care of creating and curating the metadata, providing the landing page, and ensuring that the link really works, even when the data has moved or the underlying technology is changed. For this, we have services, repositories, and PID services. You could think of a PID as a machine-readable name for something. Identifiers in general can be used not only for publications or datasets, but are given to all kinds of things: cars, books, organizations, telephone subscriptions, websites, all have identifiers. But some identifiers are less persistent, unique, or machine actionable. But in their own context or namespace, they represent a specific thing and should be kept unique and unambiguous. For these reasons, there has to be some rules and control, and someone has to manage the identifiers to assure that they are unique and persistent. To do this, we have dedicated PID services, and PID management is a part of data stewardship and management processes. In science, we want to be really careful with naming things, especially things like our data or outputs. This is part of good practice and integrity. The whole research process and all data should be accounted for. During research, identifiers might be helpful to keep track of things like data provenance or versions of your code. Sometimes local identifiers, like unique file names, are enough. A system can be a database or directory, and in a local context you might move information or make cross-references between databases or systems. In this case, you need to have a way to ensure that identifiers stay unique when introduced into another context. One way to create globally unique identifiers is to use uniform name identifiers. That means you use a web domain name you can control as a namespace. But to keep this persistent in a long run takes a lot of effort and planning. You should be able to control both the domain name and the technology, which means costs and planning for years ahead. Sometimes it's therefore better to use persistent identifiers that offer the domain name and resolver as a service. It is important to take into account that once you publish a persistent identifier, you have made the promise it will be taken care of for a very long time. Even if the content is deleted when deemed unnecessary, the landing page should be available and someone should be responsible for it. As a researcher, you want to ensure that the source data is safe and findable. It is a research output in its own right that can give you credit. Also, research articles with published data get more citations. And of course, you want to assure that all citations can be tracked back to you and also are correct and unambiguous. Not all data can of course be shared openly, but it is usually both possible and smart to always publish metadata and a PID and store the data in a safe place. Publication does not equal open access, but it equals good scientific practice. Also, when you use data produced by others, which is often smart, you want to do right by them and point to your sources in a way that supports your findings. There are different types of research data: active, dynamic, and static dataset publications. Citing dynamic data can be tricky if the data service doesn't provide good ways to ensure reproducible research. In that case, you can maybe negotiate the possibility to republish a subset of the data. It's not necessarily a bad idea to make data providers aware of these kinds of needs if they have not thought about data citation. After all, it should be in the data provider's own interest to offer the possibility to cite with persistent identifiers. Usually when you report your research to your organization or funder, it is easy if you can point to all your outputs with persistent identifiers. Consistent use of PIDs and always using these machine-readable unique names of things makes it so much easier for the information to travel uncorrupted across services and the internet. This means you don't have to do the same work reporting over and over. There is less confusion, uncertainty, and duplication of information, and less work for you. Does this all sound complicated? Don't worry, we have some more practical advice for you.
First of all, you need an identifier for yourself, so that everything you want to be associated with you can be so. If you haven't got an ORCID yet, get one. Get one and use it everywhere and always, in your publications and elsewhere where possible. This way you can guard yourself against changing names, confusion with people with same or similar names, or changing affiliations. It's free and simple, be consistent. It's also a good idea and common practice to use the PID in its machine actionable format so that it is clickable. This makes it easy for people to follow your research outputs and makes your work even more visible. For your outputs, you can get other kinds of PIDs. A trustworthy service, publisher, or a repository always provides your paper, dataset, or any other output with PIDs. Common PIDs include DOI, handle, and URN, and they are available for a wide variety of outputs. To make your outputs stand out and be accessible, always use these PIDs when citing, reporting, or anyway interacting with them. This way you can promise your colleagues and institutions that your work will always be there behind the PID, accessible and reusable. If you are affiliated with a Finnish research organization, you are entitled to use the Fairdata.fi services free of charge. The Fairdata services have integrated support for PID management and streamline the management and publishing of your dataset. When your dataset has a PID, which it is allocated by the Fairdata services, you can use it in data citation. All citations can be tracked back to you, and the link will always take you to a landing page, even if the data is not available or the services have moved or changed over time. Using persistent identifiers is one of the cornerstones in the FAIR principles. Publishing your dataset with DOI is available for datasets that are stored in Fairdata EDA service. If your data is available somewhere else outside the Fairdata services, you can still publish your dataset by describing it using Fairdata Kuvain.dataset description tool. This way you will get an URN for your dataset with a proper landing page. Please note that when the data is outside of Fairdata services, you are responsible for the integrity of the data yourself. Editing the metadata of a dataset that has been already published with Kuvain keeps your current PID for the dataset, so feel free to do so. However, if you change the files or folders linked to the dataset with Kuvain, a new version of the dataset with a new PID is automatically created. A new PID is allocated when the data is linked to the dataset changes. This way we can guarantee the data integrity. A PID is a promise, and it should always give the user a possibility to access or at least find information about the specific dataset. What if you already published your dataset, but you are not totally satisfied with the files you chose? If you delete files linked to a published dataset in EDA, the published dataset is shown as deprecated in Etsin because the files originally linked to the published datasets are no longer available. Doing so is considered irresponsible as it makes validating the research outputs impossible. In many cases, it's more advisable to publish a totally new dataset with new files in it. This way the old dataset will still be available, but also the new dataset has its own landing page and PID for consistency. Fairdata services also support the long-term preservation of datasets. This is available for datasets that have been agreed to be long-term preserved by the Ministry of Education and Culture. Any long-term preserved datasets get their own individual PID and are shown in Etsin.
Thank you for watching. We hope this was a helpful introduction to persistent identifiers, why they are important in research, and how the Fairdata services can help you. If you are unsure, it is always a good idea to discuss these questions with the data support and stewards at your institution to find the right PID solutions for your needs. Next time, we will talk about metadata. See you then!